Welcome to Baseball and Coffee, episode 65, I believe, with Tino and Aaron. Special guest, Matt Whitlock there up top for today. We just thought we'd get together and talk some baseball. It's been a minute. What's up, y'all? What's going on?
Going well, going good.
Mr. Alvis, what's up with you?
Nice warm day. I got to watch a little bit of the Pirates and the Cardinals this morning.
Peacock game.
Second time in 3 weeks I've been able to watch some of the Peacock game, and yeah, I was pleased to see they held on.
Watched baseball last night.
Got one out save or one out hold. Can't complain about that too much.
Not at all. So first question for you guys. How did Peacock go from terrible Yonder Alonso to even more terrible Albert Pujols?
I couldn't tell. I did. Ordinarily, unless they've changed, it seemed like they had someone from each team, right? I know Barry Lycan always does the Reds, and he does the Reds TV on MLB TV, and then they have someone from the other team. I couldn't tell if he was the Cardinals person, because I know Adam Wainwright was giving him crap about being in broadcasting now, but I've never heard him do Cardinals games. Yeah. I don't consume a ton of Cardinals on MLB TV, but I've never heard him before. So I wasn't sure about that. He definitely was not a natural.
No.
In the booth, he definitely seemed like a rookie.
No value add to me. I've never been a Pujols fan in general. I think when he aligned himself with Glenn Beck and Tony La Russa, I was done with him. But yeah, not a fan of him in the booth at all.
I like Apple. I like Dontrelle Willis on Apple.
Yeah, for sure.
He's really good.
I think Willis, Cliff Floyd, when he does any kind of commentary, I really like a lot. I think those guys bring a lot to the table for sure. So
you guys enjoy the StatCast elements of what they do? I have not seen a lot of it firsthand, but I've heard secondhand that they do a lot of stuff like that, probabilities and stuff.
I don't. I much prefer to look up my own StatCast stuff if that's what I want.
Gotcha.
I think that some of the stuff that they give you is their filter for what they choose to give you is not always what I would want. But
okay.
I think it's so specific, right? Like what you're interested in following with StatCast is so freaking specific that them feeding it to you is not. I just rather watch the game. So the Pirates, I know that's your neck of the woods, Aaron. Obviously, Matt was invested in them with O'Neal Cruz in the past. What are your thoughts of how the Pirates are doing and what that team is right now?
Yeah, it's I think the NL Central in general is interesting to me, yet there's no really good team. Mm-hmm. But I kind of enjoy the Cardinals being last and them having to fight and scrap. And I think it's a division that's interesting to me. There's a lot of young guys that could potentially come up and maybe swing the race with all five teams. Really, they have enough guys who have some are close to the majors. So it could be lining up to be a really interesting summer. Yeah, and I'm just interested to see, do they bring up Quinn Priester? Do they draft up one that bring up Henry Davis or Indy to try to make a push? Are they acquiring at the deadline? But obviously they had a pretty dreadful May, but they've kind of steadied themselves. I think the back end of the bullpen it's not the same guys as last year outside of Bednar, of course. But it's the second year in a row that they've showed that they can put together a bullpen. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes this a big difference. I mean, look at the team they played today. How much trouble the Cardinals have had closing out games,
right?
Even getting it to the ninth. And I think that makes a huge difference for the Pirates. And yeah, I mean, it looks like Cruz is going to get back for the end of the year. And like I said, maybe there's some people that can help. That's a lot of fun. And they're getting competent starting pitching, and I think that keeps you afloat during the rough stretches.
Right, Matt, you got thoughts on the Pirates? You've been watching them at all?
Have you gotten any games?
No, I have not. With our trip that we made together with Arizona, I kind of was going to take a step back on going to games this year. Going to go to a local independent game here in Lancaster for my birthday. I'm still would like to get to see a double A game in Reading or maybe Harrisburg, but I mean, I'm no MLB for me this year just because of the expenditure for the Arizona, which was completely worth it. But I wasn't gonna not to sidetrack off the question, but I actually was had an interaction with we're at work with two guys that came back from the Orioles Guardians game on Tuesday night. It was that game that I think 21 runs were scored, and they were sitting behind home plate, and they had like an amazing time. And it had this. He came in, he had a Guardians shirt on. I was like, oh, you know,
Nice.
and he's like, we just came from Baltimore. I'm like, you're kidding. So I just get connection because I got to go there last year, and I was like, man, I'd love to get down there and see another game. And the Orioles are so competitive now. But anyway, just made me thought of that. So I'm sorry to interrupt, Matt, your thought. But no, I have not been to any games.
I like their mix of veterans. I think I like seeing McCutcheon come back. And his metrics are I don't know why they're on this rise, but it's nice to see him back where he came up and doing well. And then Santana, who I think Seattle should have kept,
I agree.
offers that veteran presence as well. So they have a good mix of all these young guys coming up and veterans. You know, even Rich Hill today, right? Rich Hill.
Yeah.
So
I looked at him in Fantrax, and then like when I was really hurting for pitching, and I was like, I just can't do it. But I mean, he's been nothing but good since that time.
I've had him for the last couple of years in different places. You're right though. You got to shower after picking up Rich Hill. It's a little dirty. I did get to see the Mariners Pirates Sunday game last weekend, which was actually really fun. I was in Seattle.
What was the occasion? What were you? Why I saw the thread, but why were you in Seattle? Was it for the game or?
Yeah, to go see a game.
Okay.
Just to visit, just to get over there for a night, and saw Luis Ortiz, who I know you rostered originally and then ended up cutting.
I did.
He was fun to watch. I feel like he's 240 pounds. He's listed at 220. I think he looks more like 240, but he looks like 240, and about 160 of that is in his butt. And I was not that I was looking, but like that's clearly where his power comes from. But what I was like tripping about watching the Pirates was like every player had style and every player had swag. And it was a really fun watch for me. Like Ji-Hwan Bae is stretching in center field the way Ichiro did, and he's super fast and it's got a good arm and a flashy fielder. And then Connor Joe's ridiculous. I did on the Mariners pod, I did a swag meter, and Connor Joe to me is like 10 out of 10. He's got like shoulder length, like kind of greasy black hair, and he's always high-fiving and smiling and having a good time. Anyways, I loved watching their team. I think they've got a lot of style and they're a lot of fun. And they're
I'm not sure if I should call this out on the pod, but I was watching the Pirates game, and they were talking about Bay, but they had the camera on Joe.
Oh, jeez. That's so terrible. That's terrible.
And I think the broadcasters realized that they're trying to signal to the cameraman, come on, man.
That's horrible. Yeah, I think their pitching is interesting. Are you a fan of Quinn Priester, Aaron?
I don't know a ton about him. I just know he's performing well in AAA, and that there was talk of maybe Rob Beertemple on The Athletic had intimated that he's on the same schedule as Ronzi, and that he doesn't think that's a coincidence, that they might push him back because Ronzi was put in the pen, and then when Velasquez got hurt again, they moved him back kind of an emergency. But I don't know, when Beertemple says something, I pay attention, and again, I know he's performing well in AAA, but I think what does that mean? I'm not a huge fan of him from a skill perspective.
Yeah. I think he gets talked up because he was a former first-round pick.
Yeah, right? He definitely has that name.
His fantasy-wise, his stuff he's pretty middling. I know that's it's pretty insulting to call a fantasy pitching prospect to have middling stuff, but I'm not a fan of him. I think they have better, even a Mike Burrows, who I think is going to end up going under the knife, or is a better pitching prospect than Priester is. But it's, you look at like Mitch Keller's been freaking dynamite this year. He finally has figured out his pitch mix, and they've got him locked in. And Ronzi, I know we've all gone round and round with Ronzi and whether we think he's actually going to be good or not, but good arm, obviously. And Matt's favorite, Johan Oviedo, is the back end of their rotation as well. So we did talk about the Cardinals for just a second. You guys have any thoughts on the Cardinals at all? Are you celebrating their demise? The Cardinals' way is to be.
It's only for so long, right? They'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm glad they brought Walker back up.
For real.
They brought that quadruple A first baseman up too, right?
Who, Yepes? Oh,
no,
Baker.
No.
Lucan Baker.
Lucan Baker.
Yeah. Lucan Baker. I think he went 2 for 4 today, but yeah, they kind of have these middling prospect type of guys, and outside of Walker, and then they have Wynn coming up, and then they'll have Hance. So it's not like they're lacking in the minors.
Right.
Right now they're just kind of with these middling prospects that are coming up that are going to hit 250, hit some home runs. Burleson's decent, but he's a platooner, and he's going to hit contact, but the thing on him is is he a hard contact guy? He's not going to play every day. So yeah, they don't. I could see them on a year or two break from their dominance.
So it's been a while since we've talked. What did you guys make of the Wilson Contreras thing for a week, when they basically said he's not going to catch anymore, that he's going to play outfield and DH, and then a week later they put him back in, they inserted him back in as catcher? Do you guys have a take on that? Did it upset you? What were your thoughts? Aaron?
I didn't like that they made it so public, and that kind of embarrassed Contreras. I mean, I think you got to do what you got to do. I think they recognized what makes them good, and that there were some things maybe that they took for granted, having Yachty in the position so long, but it kind of made it look like it was all his fault. And I just appreciated the way that Wainwright and Flaherty both stood up and said, we got to pitch better, and it's not on him. I appreciated that about it, but I thought it was handled really, really, really poorly, which goes without saying. And I felt empathy for Contreras in that situation.
Matt, did you have any thoughts?
It's just like, there's only one Steve Young that could take over for Joe Montana. You're not the pressure's on him no matter how good the catcher is that they're going to sign. You're talking about a Hall of Fame, one of the best defensive catchers ever. He's going to be compared in that light. And obviously I know Wainwright stood up, but a lot of it was the pitchers complaining, right? And I think they were spoiled by Molina as well. So so yeah, I think it takes veteran leadership to stand up, but it's just I wouldn't want to be placed in that situation as far as taking over after you have one of the greatest defensive catchers of all time.
Yeah, I thought it was trash. I don't know. I felt bad for Contreras in a lot of ways. For one, when you signed Wilson Contreras, what were you signing? Right? You're signing an offense first catcher. You're signing one of the top, I'd say conservatively top 5 hitting catchers in baseball. You're not signing him because he's a great defensive catcher. So to be that critical of him publicly sucked. I thought that was pretty bad. I also felt like, the offensive production that Molina did not provide, right, versus the offensive production that Contreras does provide. I don't know that Molina was a much more valuable player than Contreras, right? On balance, if you think about what they contribute to the team winning, I don't know that Molina would out contribute Wilson Contreras even 5 years ago. So that's debatable, right? The value of a catcher's defense and pitch calling is something that we aren't able to quantify, but I don't know, man. It upset me quite a bit because I feel like Wilson Contreras got a raw deal in that. Two more questions.
Yeah, it's like runs created versus runs prevented, right? And
Right.
yeah, and
Two
go
more-
back to your original question real quick. In terms of the Cardinals, I kind of enjoyed seeing them struggle because I think they overestimated their own pitching and defense, or they went cheap on pitching in a sense, and they just think that they can play good defense and get around it. And so I like teams that are built around pitching and value pitching, and I also the way that they value guys like Brendan Donovan and people like that, and kind of again just think that they can not outsmart, but there's a certain
They're
they're kind
smug.
of yeah, they're a little bit smug about like this is what we do and these are our guys, and so I did enjoy seeing them struggle, and I think Marmol can be a little bit short as well. And so yeah, I like the way he's handled the pen, and Gallegos and Helsley, neither one of them really know their role. It is kind of fun to see them struggle a little bit.
Right. That was going to be my question. My next question was, Helsley was valued as a top, I don't know, let's say top 8, as a top 8 closer going into 2023. And clearly it's a bit of a timeshare at this point in time, right? So what do you guys, from a fantasy standpoint, what are you guys doing with Helsley and Gallegos as of right now? Are you valuing Helsley in the same way you did because of the 102-mile-an-hour fastball, or are you kind of in a timeshare with those two?
No, I mean I can speak for myself because I tried to acquire Helsley as a distressed asset, and his manager didn't see him as a distressed asset. So bottom line is I didn't acquire him because I saw him in a timeshare, and his K to walk is not good.
Right.
He's having command issues, and I think he's a real injury risk, as is anyone who throws that hard. So I wasn't able to acquire. I tried to buy low, as it's like saying okay, he's in a timeshare, but some saves are better than no saves, but it just didn't work because the manager who had him didn't see it that way.
What about you, Matt?
I look at it more from a role perspective. I don't mind the undefined roles as long as it doesn't affect their performance. So especially if you're a hold saves league, right? So that those players are going to be put in high pressure situations. It's going to give you a heart attack as a fantasy manager if you're watching them all the time. But at the same time, holds and saves are the same thing, and that's going to give you one category. So I don't mind those hybrid pitchers. In some ways, it kind of brings a weakness if you have these defined roles, because what are you going to decide? Are you going to have 3 if you're a 5 reliever league and you don't have very many SPRP players? What are you going to have, 3 closers and 2 holds guys, or 3 holds guys and 2 closers? And really, in the end, that's going to be a split with the team you're playing if you have too many closers.
That's one of the things that, like Evan Phillips as an example, it's one of the things I love about Evan Phillips is it's 7 saves and 5 holds thus far with a 1.66 ERA and 26 strikeouts and 21 2/3 innings, right? It's, if you can manage to figure out how to have 2 holds guys and 2 saves guys, plus that guy who's kind of split down the middle, it's a pretty good situation to be in.
I think the other thing for me
and
is
they're
one
guaranteed
thing
that they'll be in a leverage situation, right?
Right.
So sometimes if you have a holds guy, they'll put him in a 5-1 game, and it's not going to help you with that category. But if you have these hybrid saves holdings guys, you always know it's either going to be a save or a hold unless they screw up.
Right.
I think it's also clear to me the way that they're being managed, either through their workload or just who faces who when, like it's affecting their performance. I think it's one thing from a fantasy perspective to say, like, hey, we want clarity, we want a capital C closer. Well, if you're still thinking that way, you're in trouble, because that doesn't happen very often anymore. So to you guys' point, these guys are valuable, but to me, where the value starts to hurt is where on a team level, you can see it's affecting them and they're not performing well, and that team can't seem to get it right. And I think it's affecting both of them.
See,
from the outside.
I think it's interesting because I'm from the school of, whether it's managing people in a workplace or say you're managing a team, having defined roles is, I think you set your players up to succeed if they know, if they can really understand what it is that their role is, right? If Felix Bautista is obviously a closer that I roster in our home league, and sure, Cano comes in and gets some saves, and I think that's Cano's role to be in those leverage situations. But for Bautista to know he's coming in the ninth, I think he's a better pitcher because he knows that's his role. This is who I am. This is what I do, right? And so it is interesting to see these kind of more hybrid, type holds and saves pitchers and kind of a muddled bullpen because you want to be able to utilize matchups and whatnot. To me, that's, you run the risk of relievers not really performing up to their peak potential because of it. I don't know that that's the case for sure. that's my assumption based on just, I think, thinking about the people that are involved.
Sure, I agree.
So this leads me to, I think, the most pertinent question for fantasy so far this year, which is, what the hell's going on with pitching? It's, pitching is difficult to find in fantasy. Pitchers are getting hurt left and right. There are all kinds of theories as to why pitchers are getting hurt. Is it the pitch clock? Are they still throwing too hard? Are they trying to throw too hard along with the pitch clock? Some of us, I'm super guilty of this, have tried to look for young pitching to try to supplement. That's bit a lot of us in the ass recently, certainly today for me with Bryce Miller. Let's start, we'll take a break in a few minutes, but let's talk a little bit about like what's going on with pitching this year. And then from a fantasy standpoint, what steps are you taking as managers to try to mitigate some of these disasters, right? Where I feel like we're all just trying to plug holes in the dam right now to be able to to get through a matchup in head-to-head without getting blown out in the pitching categories.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even summer yet, right? So the ball's going to take off even harder in the summer.
Right.
I think we had this conversation on the Monos pod. I think a lot of it has to do with these players with good fastballs, or fastballs if we want to define them as 95 and above, are getting tagged, right? And you see stats, especially these younger guys coming up with these arms. Their fastballs, if they don't have movement, are players are just waiting on them, right? And if you're not gonna have good secondary or a good third pitch, they're just gonna wait on that. So that's what happened with G-Rod. It's Miller has enough movement on his fastball, at least prior to this start. I'm not sure what the stats are going to show on this, the metrics are going to show on this start, but that was his early success, right? So and Oviedo, he had early success, but now if he's not throwing, he could throw 98, but if he's not hitting in the secondary with his slider, his 98 is going to get the shit hit out of it.
Right.
And that's what happened, right? I think last time we talked, he was like 350 off his 98 fastball. It's not doing much, and these young guys coming up also don't, it takes a while to have command and to locate that fastball as well.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think that's part of the difference with Green this year as opposed to last. Like Green early on last year got tagged on his fastball. His fastball is moving a little more this year, but he's also just has experience. He knows how to locate it. He knows how to mix it with his other pitches.
Yep.
I think Casali has helped the last 2 times. He's a great catcher to help him strategize with location and how to mix it up. So yeah, pitching's hard, and I'm with you as far as eating crow on some of these younger pitchers. It just takes time.
Aaron, let's talk about pitching. What's going on?
Yeah, I think it's the pitch clock. Strikeouts really aren't that different. But the ball is being put in play more often. And I think, to me, it's not that these guys are consistently bad. It's just that when it starts to go bad, when they're just more big innings,
Mm-hmm.
more rallies, and so I think it's causing us to try to fix the problem. We're maybe a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more trusting of the young guys just because they haven't burnt us yet. We don't have any, we're kind of dreaming on the potential. And I think, I'm not gonna say I've never started a rookie or anything, but I've definitely learned that, Luis Patino experience, like just because all the tools are there, it's not going to translate and it's going to be a bumpy ride early. And if you're going to be putting him in your lineup, you're going to be taking on some risk. And I think I've tried to lean maybe a little bit more conservative, a little bit more towards control and command over stuff in the middle of my rotation fantasy wise. And this is before the start of the year, not to say I was ahead of the curve by any means, but because I don't feel that way. But I do think I've tried to just lower the ceiling a little bit for a little bit more floor.
Right.
But again, it has still, like everyone else, I'm taken aback by the ratios, the whips, the ERAs. And I think for me as a manager, it's just been, I have to roll back my own expectations of what my guys are going to put up.
Right.
And that have as an emotional response, because for me, it's like finishing in the top 3 in ERA and whip, even though we're a head-to-head league, like it's a pride point for me. And so when I see ratios that are like out of whack, like I have to gauge that and pull that in and just remember these guys are adjusting, and that over a larger sample, it's going to normalize, they'll adjust. But I think it's the clock in the beginnings, truly.
What about the ball?
I don't know. I mean, outside of the Yankees being like their pitchers being questioned a lot, I know they're experimenting with a pre-tacked ball. Is it in AA? And it's not going well.
Double-A Southern League, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going well.
I agree, Aaron, that so one of the exercises that I've been doing the last couple of months is with the Mariners pod. I've been watching every Mariners start and every pitch. And what stands out for me more than anything in watching the Mariners pitch is George Kirby is their best pitcher because he can locate, right? It's his ability to locate, his command is unlike really any pitcher that I can remember, maybe besides obviously Greg Maddux. But I'm not calling him Maddux, but he has lesser stuff than, I would say, than Gilbert, Miller, or Luis Castillo. But it's his ability to locate which differentiates him. And then Castillo's starts are good when he can't locate, and he's a Cy Young candidate when he can locate. And it's very clear to me that it's one or the other, right? And so I guess my conclusion is, yes, I think pitchers are less effective because of the pitch clock. And I don't think we're seeing it in velocity as much as we're seeing them tire quicker at times and getting hit because of it. We're seeing injuries, obviously. I think rookie pitchers, we just get excited about them. And I think, Aaron, you're right. It's the unknown that we're attracted to. And we should just look at history to see that rookie pitchers aren't going to succeed. But what is interesting to me is, do you have an elite pitch plus another pitch that is above average, right? That's, to me, the starting point. Because just a fastball is not going to make it. Just a slider is not going to make it. And then 2, the art of pitching, I think, is starting to come back. I think that it's not about velocity anymore, right? It's about needing to locate. It's about pitch sequence, right? I in one of the previous games that I watched for the Mariners, I bring them up again just because I'm watching them all the time, was Matt Brash threw, I think it was Brash to Corey Seager, but he threw a knuckle curve that was up and out of the zone. And in the same, I think that was the second pitch. And then the 5th pitch of the at-bat, I think he threw a knuckle curve again that was also high, right? But it was a strike. And Seager did damage on that pitch. And my comment to that was, you just threw 2 knuckle curves to a very good hitter that were at the same eye level, right? You throw a breaking ball at the same eye level twice to a major league hitter, and there's a very good chance they're going to hit the second one. They've already seen it in that spot, right? And so the art of pitching is lost on someone like Matt Brash. He's so focused on throwing 98 and throwing his slider at 91 that he's not, there's no art to it anymore. So to me, I'm excited for that. Like, unless you have a double plus pitch or about 2+ pitches, the art of pitching, I think, is going to be more of what we're looking at and looking for. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back with like a 10-15 minute segment after that and call it good. All right, you guys, I've got a question for both of you to close this out. Give me one guy on your home fantasy league team that you are really excited about for the rest of the season, and then maybe a bold prediction for one of your other players on your team for the rest of the season. Matt, you want to
Oh
start?
wow, I do not want to go first on this.
I can if you guys want me to.
Yeah, you go first because you had that question prepared.
All right, I wouldn't say that I was prepared for it, but I will go ahead. So my bold prediction is Julio Rodriguez is going to finish as a 300 hitter who hits 30 or who is 30-30. I think he's going to hit 30 home runs. He's going to steal 30 bags, and he's going to get his average up to 300 by the end of the year. Watching him hit, I don't love how aggressive he is in the count. I think he, over the rest of his career, I think if he can become more selective and hunt specific pitches, he will be that much better of a hitter. I also don't see him getting out in front of anything and pulling it pull side for power. Everything he hits is to right center right now. But it's like 108, 109 off the bat every single time, right? It's right center field, balls that are like 800 XBA on Savant being caught by the center fielder. He just hits everything hard. And I think that his bat to ball talent is, to me, reminiscent of someone like Vlad Guerrero Sr. And those types of hitters with that kind of speed will always succeed. So to me, Julio's going 300 and 30-30 this season. That is my bold prediction. I'd say the player that I'm most excited to watch for the rest of the season is, this is going to sound silly, but every day when I set my lineup in the morning, I go on Fangraphs and I look at the game logs for each of the guys I have in the minor leagues. And I like seeing what they did the last game, right? And seeing Tamar Johnson, with the 400 plus OBP, or what has Cam Collier done? So for me, that's really, really fun. Seeing Josue De Paula in low A ball instead of being in the Dominican Summer or the Dominican League. That's what I look forward to, is watching the young guys develop and kind of checking on their stats and watching them anytime I can watch an at bat on Twitter. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But my bold prediction is that Julio goes 300 with 30-30. Who next is?
Next bold prediction. Well, this isn't a bold prediction. There's a lot of competition though for what I'm going to say. I think by the end of the year, James Wood will be the unanimous #1 prospect in baseball. No debate about it. Mm-hmm. He's high contact, hard hits, power that rivals Walker, but at the same time, he has the contact to go along with it. My doubts has always been the national system, but even now that he's been promoted to AA, he's starting to catch fire. And I think that his talent will kind of outweigh perhaps what the Nats system is doing. But I think the Nats have made improvements in their system. They were quite intentional in the offseason. Brady House, shouldn't have said that because somebody should pick him up in our league.
Yes.
Is raking right now. Yeah, so I think they're doing something special again in Washington with these young players. Even Green, Green's striking out all the time, but he's still spectacular when he does make contact or he does get on base. So the Nats system beyond the MLB level is exciting again. So yeah, so
I have
that's
a question. So is the Wood prediction, is that assuming that Ellie and Churio graduate, or you're saying they're going to be
that's
over them?
that's assuming that Ellie graduates, and I would put Churio probably as number 2.
Okay,
Um,
fair
yeah,
enough.
I see Ellie graduating by All-Star break.
So even
The
above Jackson Holiday as well.
yes, Jackson Holiday as well.
So James Wood in high A this season, 8 homers, 8 steals in 181 plate appearances, 32 runs, 36 RBIs. He, from 2021 until his promotion to Double A, he's always run double-digit walk rates. His walk rate was 14.4%, triple slash of 293, 392, 580 slug. So you're talking about a 20-year-old, I guess 21 now, or close to 21. 6'7", 240, 6'6", 240, huge power. I do get nervous with the long levered players like that. And I know that's something that he's proven so far to be able to not be an issue. But yeah, James Wood's a beast. I like
And the
it.
video you showed me is just brilliant whenever
Yeah.
I just love that in a player, right? So when I'm not sure if you saw it, Aaron, the crowd was shouting overrated, and he just tanked one in response to that.
And
So
he was definitely talking some shit too when he did it. It was like, okay, you want to say I'm overrated? Let me show you a little bit.
Do
yeah,
you
so
think, do you guys think the Padres GM is going to trade away Jackson Merrill before to try to fix the team, or will Merrill actually make it to the majors in the Padres?
I think if I was the Padres, I would
I'm
trade.
asking that because you're talking about Wood and he was a Padre, and he's traded away all the prospects, and Merrill is the top rated guy right now for them.
Yeah, I think they will. I think their time is now, and you have essentially 2 shortstops who are top 50 players in the major leagues on your roster already. Merrill could play second, I guess, but no, if I'm San Diego, I'm trading Jackson Merrill for whatever veteran I can get that's going to help the team this year. Obviously the asking price isn't going to be low, but yeah, I would absolutely trade him if I was AJ Preller.
Cool. All right, Matt, please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt. I know we're up against our stop.
yeah, so that's one. And as far as what was the other question?
So bold prediction, and then what are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to? I have to say, and I know both of you don't like this because there's a certain podcaster that's a big fan of this team, but it has been fun to watch Arizona play. I watch them every night just because of Marte and Carroll. I like the spunk that the team has. I like the fire the team has. I like the comebacks that they've had. So it's been a good young team to watch, mainly because everybody had written them off at the start of the year. Even veterans that I even need to apologize here with Longoria, because I think I ripped him on Armanos pod, and he's been taking off since then. But they have that cool mix of veterans in there. I think Gurriel has done a great job as being that veteran mix, kind of that spunk on the team. So yeah, I'm excited to continue to watch Arizona play, and plus I'm not a big Dodgers guy, so I like seeing kind of the underdog battle it out with the Dodgers, and then San Diego is like the big overpaid team in that division. So it's fun to see
like the Yankees West Coast.
Right.
Yeah.
What about your boy Brandon?
You ranked him higher. I'll keep reminding you of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Diamondbacks are what the Cubs, what I thought the Cubs would be, and the Cubs are just awful again. All right, so I'll go.
I can't watch the D-backs. I've got too many, like Luis Gonzalez. Like, there's so many players on that team that I couldn't stand for so many years. I'm good. I'll watch Corbin Carroll highlights.
Cool. All right, I know we're up against that. I'll give the answer to the question. So, my bold prediction or my bold call is I think what Seager is doing is for real. I think he's going to continue it. I think he's going to finish with over 300 average and 25 home runs and 100 RBIs. even with the time missed. His current slash line is 349, 405, 623. And I know we had our shortstop pod was probably one of the more spirited ones we had in my defense of my ranking of him, but he's doing exactly what I think he can do. And I guess that's my bold prediction. What I'm most excited about is that I'm just hopeful I'll have 1 out of the 4 or 5 minor league eligible players I have come up and make an impact on my team. I believe they have the talent to and the position to. And that's what I'm most excited to see on my roster. I don't know who it will be or who will have the opportunity, and whether it be a catcher or win. Certainly hoping Ellie gets a shot. But yeah, I'm hopeful to get some impact from one of those young guys and maybe change the shape of my roster a little bit. And that's what one of the things I'm excited for.
I think Ellie's
I'm
up.
excited for Ellie to come up too.
I think
It's gonna
he's
be
up
fun.
within a couple weeks, honestly.
Mhm.
I think it's I don't know how much you guys are on Twitter, but Ellie's like half of my Twitter feed is Ellie De La Cruz every night.
Did you see him make it to third base on that missed throw or
Yep.
that ground ball to right field yesterday?
Yep, it's nuts. His first to third is crazy, or his home to third was crazy. He's hitting 450-foot tanks like every single game. It feels like, yeah, he's a beast. Still really interested to see how his swing translates in the majors, but yeah, super, super, super fun. Obviously, I wasn't able to pry him away from you, even though I was offering the Ricky Williams coming out of the University of Texas draft sort of
I think we
for
both
him.
did.
Still said no. Anything
Yeah,
else?
like Arizona, the Reds are going to be fun to watch as well. As
Super
far
fun. I tried to
Ken
offer something
Rosenthal, I don't know if you
similar.
guys saw, Ken Rosenthal wrote a story like that Jonathan India has to go to make room.
I did
I'm
see
like, that
that.
guy's the heartbeat of that team. Tino, I know you don't think he's
well,
good
he's
for
going to move
fantasy,
off. I think
but
when
I mean, come on, I don't think you move a guy who's 25, who's you're like your highest WAR player right now. I mean, you got to figure it out beyond that.
I think you move him.
he's going to be move off second base. McLean's going to go to second base. McLean's the better fielder out of all the infield. McLean's second
For
base.
sure.
Ellie shortstop. Maybe they'll move him to first. Who knows what Votto's doing now? Maybe they'll move him to the outfield. But I think he's the odd man out. I think that's correct. He's the odd man out on the infield at least. Because have you seen that? Have you seen his range?
It's bad. It's bad. Can he play left field?
I think they might move. I think McLean could play left. I think Ellie could play outfield. Here's what I'm going to say about that situation, because I definitely have an opinion. I think Ellie wants to be a shortstop. I think they will allow Ellie to play shortstop for as long as he wants to play shortstop and he's effective. I think when you have a talent of that caliber, right, who's potentially the best player in the major leagues, if he wants to play short and he's not going to completely kill your team, that's where you play him. McLean's bat is proven to already be better than Jonathan India. Noelvi Marte's bat is going to instantly be better than Jonathan India. And Edwin Arroyo, if you play Arroyo at second, he's the best defensive player out of all of those guys in the middle infield. If you played Arroyo at second and he gave you serviceable offense, you can have him make up for some of the range that Ellie may give up being so big. I think if they make a decision that's not based on who is the most talented player, specifically offensively, they're screwing up, right? If they keep India at second, they're screwing up. To me, if you can I would trade India for 2 decent prospects right now. Go get more pitching, right? Go get an outfield prospect. Deal him to a team like Seattle that needs trade India for Brian Wu or ask for Jonathan Clase, right? That's what I would do. And the Mariners, I bet you would do that in a heartbeat. Like Wu plus Tyler Locklear, right? Wu plus, I don't know, name any middling, like decent Mariners hitting prospect. That's what they should be doing. But to keep Jonathan India at second because you think that he's the leader of that team, I'm sorry. The minute Ellie De La Cruz steps foot into Cincinnati, Ellie De La Cruz is the leader of that team. He just is. He's too big. He's too demonstrative. He has too much personality. He's too explosive. He is the leader of that team the minute he steps into that clubhouse.
As investors in Green, you saw the Green news, right? That his start has been pushed back to Saturday.
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't see why though.
Hip tightness. Yeah.
And then Abbott's coming up.
Yeah.
So fun to see Andrew Abbott.
Also not
Yeah.
not a believer in him either.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, guys.
I think Chico owns him in our league, huh?
Great. Hope he gets lit up.
Yeah,
All right, you guys. Anything else?
No, this is
Sweet.
fun. Thank you.
it was fun talking
Sorry
baseball.
Sorry for being a few minutes late.
Miss you guys. Let's do it again
That
soon.
was right. 222.
All right.
Yeah, I gotta get the kids to. We're gonna play. I'm gonna play wiffle ball in the park with Gregory.
You can teach him how to throw a curveball with the wiffle ball.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He should.
All right.
Sweeper.
No,
Wiffle ball.
here's what you do. One thing. Here's what you do. You tell him he's too young to throw a curveball because it's going to hurt his elbow, but that you can throw curveballs to him when he's hitting. That's what I would do. All right, y'all.
Bye.
All right, take it
Good to
easy.
see you.
Enjoyed it, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Peace.